Hello, everybody. Happy Sunday afternoon. Hope yours is going well. We've got another Seahawks video to get to today, but first, we are at 2,350 subscribers. I want to give a shout out to all the subscribers to the channel, and of course, special tip of the cap goes to all the channel members, especially elite channel members, HaWKxXA, Brandon Mikel, Rip, Scott Todd, Hasher for MVP, VGK Tiger 75, and Salacious Crumb. Well, it's been almost 2 weeks since we fired Brian Schottenheimer, and we still do not have a new offensive coordinator, which is interesting in and of itself and is something that deserves a little extra analysis, which I will be providing later today, and extra discussion, which will be provided later tonight. But let's go ahead and continue on with the process that we've been doing ever since Schottenheimer got fired. Let's continue to evaluate different candidates. And today we have a candidate that is actually quite interesting, a candidate that I think a lot of people would be on board for, a candidate who has a history of being around very successful offenses and very successful quarterbacks. And while I do have some reservations about this particular candidate, I think getting him would be a big positive and a big indication that things are going to start getting better in Seattle. So today we are going to be looking at another fun candidate, Joe Lombardi. He is somebody that the team has already expressed a good deal of interest in. He is somebody who has had a lot of success in the NFL as a coach, or, not a head coach, obviously, but somebody who has had a lot of experience on various coaching staffs. Excuse me. And I think that this is a hire that would bring a lot of Seahawks fans together and placate them for the time being. So, with that being said, let's jump into our 10th offensive coordinator candidate, Joe Lombardi. First, he's 49 years old, so roughly middle-aged. And the fact that he's been a quarterback coach basically his entire career as a coach indicates to me that he doesn't have huge aspirations of ever being a head coach, because despite his incredible success as a quarterback's coach, he's only risen above that rank once, and it was for a relatively short period of time before he came back down. So he might just be one of those coaches who never rises above maybe being a coordinator. So if you get him and he's good, you don't really have to worry about him leaving to go be a head coach somewhere else, I don't think. So that's encouraging, I suppose. Now, as for his resume, it's actually relatively simple to go over. He has been the quarterback coach for the Saints basically since Drew Brees and Sean Payton got there. I think he got there in 2007 and has been there ever since. So these first 4 years of the decade that we're going to be covering, 2010 to 2013, he was the QB coach for the Saints. 11-5, 13-3, 7-9, 11-5. So they won a lot more than they lost. And their offenses, they had 2 good offenses and 2 outstanding offenses. They had 2 top 3 offenses and 2 offenses right at or around the top 10. So they scored a lot and they won a lot. And of course, I don't need to tell you guys how well Drew Brees played over these 4 seasons. This first year, 4,600 yards, 33 touchdowns, a lot of interceptions, which raises an eyebrow maybe, but still a quality season, a 91 QB rating, and he made the Pro Bowl. The next year, even better, almost 5,500 yards, one of the highest totals in the history of the NFL for a QB, almost 5,500 yards, 46 touchdowns, right up there with the all-time great seasons, 14 interceptions, very high completion percentage, 71.2%, 111 QB rating, Pro Bowl. The next year, the Saints struggled. This was the year when they didn't even have Sean Payton, but their offense continued to cook, 29 points a game. QB Brees threw for almost 5,200 yards, 43 touchdowns, 19 interceptions, 63 completion percentage, so that ticked down a lot in the absence of Sean Payton, but still a very good season from Brees and another Pro Bowl. And then the next year, Brees threw for almost 5,200 yards, 39 touchdowns, 12 picks. Very comparable season to what Russell Wilson had last year, actually. 68.6 completion percentage, 105 rating, and the Pro Bowl again. Now, is Joe Lombardi to be the only person you credit for Drew Brees' success in this run? Absolutely not. He had Sean Payton. We all understand that Sean Payton is the mastermind offensively in New Orleans. But it cannot be discounted that Joe Lombardi was the QB coach for these 4 extremely productive years from Drew Brees. All right. Now we get to perhaps the most interesting part of this resume and the thing that gives me pause before we proceed with our excitement about getting the guy who coached Drew Brees for most of his career. At this point, after 2013, the Detroit Lions decided to bring him on as their offensive coordinator, where he remained for all of 2 years before going back to New Orleans. That's not good. That's an indication that maybe he was in over his head. And if you take a look at the results, his 2 years in Detroit, they went 11-5 this first year on the back of an elite defense, but they only scored 20 points a game. They threw for 252 pass yards a game, which was 12th, slightly above average, and they had one of the worst passing games running games in the league. This next year, the bottom falls out a little bit. They go 7-9. The offense improves a little bit. They're 18th now, slightly below average, but even though their passing game ticked up a little bit to top 10, their rushing game plummeted to worst in the entire NFL. And at this point, Joe Lombardi went back to the Saints. So you could say that Joe Lombardi had his shot to prove himself as an offensive coordinator, and it didn't work out. And it's not like the personnel he had in Detroit was bad. He had Matthew Stafford, he had Calvin Johnson, he had Golden Tate. There was enough there to work with to create a really good passing attack, and it just didn't happen under Joe Lombardi. They were a little above average, maybe close to good, but they weren't great, and the offense as a whole was so disappointing they parted ways after just 2 years. So if you're looking for a reason to be skeptical of a potential Joe Lombardi hire, this is it right here. These 2 years, he didn't exactly impress anybody, and he went back to where he came from. So that indicates to me that at this point, at least, he wasn't ready for the responsibility of being an offensive coordinator. Now, that was a while ago. Things have changed. So let's take a look at his resume since going back to the New Orleans Saints. So 2016, first year back, Saints 7-9, but they have one of the best offenses in the league, 29 points a game. Brees throws for over 5,200 yards, 37 touchdowns, 15 picks, which is a little high compared to what he would be doing in future years, but still quite workable. 70% completion, 102 QB rating, another Pro Bowl. The next year, more of the same. This time the team is a little more successful, but they're still scoring at a very high clip. 28 points a game, which is 4th. 4,300 yards, 23 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. 72 completion percentage, 104 QB rating in the Pro Bowl. It was at this point that the Saints started to become a more run-happy team. They started to run the ball a little more behind guys like Alvin Kamara. And it made sense why, because Brees was getting a little older, but he was still playing at a very high level. Next year, 13-3. The Saints, one of the best teams in the league. 31.5 points a game. Brees turns in another Pro Bowl season, even as the numbers become a little more muted. Almost 4,200 yards, 33 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Completed close to 74% of his passes, which is insane. 112 rating and the Pro Bowl. And, of course, this next year we have another 13-3 record. Another top 3 offense, almost 29 points a game. Brees, numbers go up a little bit. Incredible season from Brees. 4,400 yards, 36 touchdowns, 6 picks. 72 completion percentage, 110 QB rating, and the Pro Bowl again. These stats include a few games from Teddy Bridgewater because he came in for Brees, and he came in for Brees and played really well. And if you're looking for a reason to potentially get excited about Joe Lombardi, he was part of the reason why they were able to turn Teddy Bridgewater into a credible starting NFL QB. And this most recent season, 12-4, 30 points per game again, a top 5 offense. Their QBs, who, collectively you had Jameis Winston, Taysom Hill, and Drew Brees, threw for almost 4,000 yards, 28 touchdowns, 8 picks, 71 completion percentage, and 104 QB rating. Brees did not make the Pro Bowl because he missed too many games. Otherwise, he almost certainly would have. And that gets us to the end of Joe Lombardi's resume for the last decade plus. Look, I'm not denying that Drew Brees is great independent of his coaching staff, and I'm not denying that Sean Payton is the driving force behind offensive brilliance in New Orleans, just as Andy Reid is the driving force behind the offensive genius in Kansas City. But there is something to be said for a man who has been the QB coach for a future first ballot Hall of Fame QB for more than 10 years of his career. This doesn't come easy. This doesn't happen all the time. It's not easy to find a coach who is this credentialed in terms of coaching up QBs. So, let's go ahead and score him. Feasibility, I say 10 out of 10. It makes perfect sense for both sides. Joe Lombardi is a very established and very accomplished quarterback coach who is probably looking for a second shot at being a coordinator somewhere. He probably wants to go somewhere where he would have more responsibilities because obviously if he stays in New Orleans, Payton keeps play calling. He's a respected candidate that everybody would be like, wow, that's a good hire. That makes a lot of sense. It would be somebody that the team would be excited to get. It would be somebody that the team would be proud to show off. And I think feasibility-wise, it's a perfect 10 out of 10. Fit with Pete Carroll, I gave him a 3 out of 10. I can't say very much about the fit. He's been a QB coach for years. He's been Drew Brees' QB coach for more than 12 seasons worth, I think, in total for Drew Brees. And Drew Brees has had some of the most prolific pass-happy seasons in recent NFL memory. The only time he was an offensive coordinator and could be credited with any kind of a rush attack, you can see how bad the rushing game was in Detroit. It was basically a complete non-factor. They rushed for less than 90 yards per game collectively over these 2 seasons. So one of the worst rushing attacks in the league when he actually had his say in whether or not the team would be running the ball or not. So I don't think there's much of a fit with Carroll. I think the level of success he's had gives him a few points in this area, but 3 out of 10, that kind of indicates to me that Carroll would not exactly get behind this hire. Fit with the modern NFL, I say 9 out of 10. Assuming he's picked up knowledge from Sean Payton, I don't see any reason why he shouldn't be able to be a great coach in the modern NFL. He should understand more than just about anybody that you have to pass the ball a lot in the modern NFL to have success. He should understand he should understand what it takes to have an elite offense in the NFL because he's been around nothing but elite offenses for the last decade plus. Second, fourth, third, fifth. He's had 2 years where the offense was just above average. But in terms of understanding what needs to be done to score a lot of points in the NFL, he should be the guy. Overall score, how excited I would be, I say 8 out of 10. I'm concerned about what he did as a member of the Lions. I'm concerned this indicates that he's just not ready to handle these responsibilities. I'm also concerned about him being a Sean Payton understudy because those guys typically don't go on to great things in the NFL, typically. So I'm a little concerned that Sean Payton might just be hiring puppets in New Orleans and nobody he has working underneath him is worth anything. But there is tremendous potential here. And after this long around Sean Payton and Drew Brees, he should understand some things. So that's my look at Joe Lombardi. This would be a candidate that I think a lot of people would get behind. This is a candidate that I think a lot of people would be excited to bring on. I think that if we got him, it would quell a lot of the complaints from Russell Wilson and the fan base, and it would open up the possibility of things being really good going forward. So what do you guys think about Joe Lombardi? This is not the last video I'm going to make today, and later today we're going to be discussing this offensive coordinator question in a deeper context. So I will see you guys later today. Enjoy the conference title games. Peace out. Go Hawks. And yeah, the beat rolls on.